Welcome to the Elder Darkness. Tonight we journey far west, to a land that no longer exists. Beleriand, a realm of deep forests, mighty rivers, and proud elven kingdoms, now drowned beneath the sea. But before it sank, it stood as the stage for Middle-earth's greatest hopes and cruelest betrayals. Even now, under starlight and shifting tides, some say you can still hear the echoes of elven harps deep beneath the waves. Or maybe that's just the sound of your own breathing slowing. Either way, you probably won't survive this in one piece, emotionally. So before we start entering the world of Middle-earth, please take a moment to like my videos and subscribe to my channel, but only if you feel comfortable with this Middle-earth legend. And as always, let me know your location and local time down in the comments. Now, lie back and relax as we travel to the world of Middle-earth. A land before drowning, we begin with Beleriand in its prime, elven realms blooming, Doriath protected by Melian's enchantment, and the Noldor plotting vengeance under the weight of Feanor's oath. Beleriand, in the elder days, lies stretched beneath the starlit skies before the sun and moon are even kindled. The land is old, wild, and thrumming with magic. At its heart flows the River Sirion, its waters silvered and endless. The forests of Doriath whisper with enchantment, guarded by the girdle of Melian, a boundary none may cross without the queen's leave. Eleuthingel reigns there, a Sindarin king with a crown of twilight and a tendency to speak only when absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, far to the north, the Noldor return. Banished and rebellious, they step ashore in fire and frost, led by Fëanor and his 7 very emotionally complicated sons. They bring with them doom cloaked in pride. The Oath of Fëanor, sworn to reclaim the Silmarils, the radiant jewels stolen by Morgoth, is a magical vow no therapist could ever undo. The elves divide. Some rule kingdoms of beauty, like Finrod Felagund in Nargothrond, a palace carved into caverns beside a roaring river. Others, like Maedhros, Fëanor's eldest, build citadels on cliff tops, ever watchful for Morgoth's shadow. And Morgoth, the first Dark Lord, broods in his northern fortress, Angband, a throne of iron, a crown of flame, and not a shred of chill. He is the great enemy, once the most radiant of the Valar, now hoarding the stolen Silmarils like a dragon on an emotional spiral. By now, the First Age is fully underway. Dwarves chisel halls beneath the blue mountains, men awaken in the east, and even Ents begin wandering, long before they grow into their full barky sass. Elves and dwarves trade, somewhat begrudgingly. Men form shaky alliances, but everyone pretends Morgoth isn't building an army of werewolves, trolls, and winged beasts beneath his volcano lair. Classic denial. Among the most beautiful and politically precarious places is Gondolin. Hidden in a ring of mountains, invisible to all, this secret city is ruled by Turgon, a Noldorin king with aspirations of divine architectural awards. White towers, fountains of light, and a language all their own. Gondolin is a miracle, but like all such things in Tolkien's world, it's mostly a setup for heartbreak. We'll get there later, don't worry. Meanwhile, in Doriath, a child is born, Luthien, daughter of Melian and Thingol, half Maya, half elf, all enchanting. She dances under moonlight and sings with power that can lull darkness itself. Later, she'll fall in love with a mortal named Beren. That's where the Silmarils and the Oath come crashing back like a poorly timed sequel. But for now, the kingdoms of Beleriand flourish. There is a golden age in these twilight lands. Elves trade poetry and gossip. Dwarves craft jewelry so fine it causes actual wars. And men, especially the noble house of Beer, swear loyalty to the elven lords, eager to carve honor into their fates. Yet beneath the mountains Morgoth waits, and far above him, in the undying lands of Valinor, the Valar remain silent. They have exiled the Noldor and hold fast to their neutrality. Whether out of wisdom or shame, they let Middle-earth burn while they tend their gardens. Middle-earth historians still debate whether this inaction was a test of strength or just divine ghosting. The first tremor of ruin begins with Daejernu in Gileath, the battle under the stars. Here, Fëanor leads the charge against Morgoth's forces, pushing them back toward Angband. It's a bright moment, brief, glorious, and bloody. Fëanor, never one for backup plans, charges ahead only to be surrounded by Balrogs, yes, plural. Whipped and broken, he dies on the battlefield, cursing Morgoth with his last breath. His body burns with such intensity that only ashes remain. And with that, the Noldor lose their maddest genius. In the aftermath, his sons take up the oath. The Silmarils remain locked in Morgoth's iron crown, and every attempt to reclaim them leads to deeper tragedy. The seeds of Beleriand's downfall are already planted. And still, life in Beleriand continues, warily, watchfully. Characters you might know from later tales begin their long journeys. Galadriel, yes, that Galadriel, walks the forests of Doriath, already ancient and already not amused. She will survive the drowning of this land, but she'll remember it always. Like that one embarrassing party you never talk about. Fringe detail time? Here's one. The elves of Assyriand, the Lykendi, are green-clad forest spirits who sing more than they speak. Their leader, Denethor, not the one who eats tomatoes, dies defending his people and is never replaced. They sort of ghost the whole political structure after that. Quietest rebellion ever. And let's not forget Menegroth, the Thousand Caves of Doriath. Carved with dwarven hands, ruled with elven pride, and lit with enchanted lamps. It is here that Luthien dances, and here that doom will later creep in. Even in moments of peace, the ground seems to hum, as if remembering all that came before and dreading what is to come. The rivers carry rumors. The wind shifts oddly through the trees. And Morgoth, he is not idle. He is watching, preparing. In a world where kingdoms rise beneath stars and promises are etched in fire, the land remembers everything. Even now, Beleriand sleeps beneath the waves, holding her secrets close. Wars that shattered the West, from Daejer Bragalak to Nirnath Arnediad, we drift through blood-soaked battlefields, broken alliances, and the sorrow that thins the borders of Doriath and Nargothrond. Far to the north, smoke begins to bleed into the sky once more. The Daejer Bragalak, the battle of sudden flame, erupts without warning. Morgoth, patient no longer, sends rivers of fire pouring from the Iron Mountains, consuming the northern plains. His armies, wolves, dragons, and demons, spill forth like nightmares with excellent coordination. The siege of Angband, which had hemmed him in for centuries, collapses in a single fiery night. This is the moment when everything starts to tilt. Maedhros, eldest of Fëanor's sons and perhaps the most guilt-ridden, barely survives the onslaught. Fingolfin, High King of the Noldor, hears the screams of the dying and rides alone to Angband. Yes, alone, in full armor, on a horse glowing with divine light. He challenges Morgoth to single combat because apparently that's something Elven kings just do when they're fed up. And here's the thing, he actually wounds Morgoth 7 times. The Dark Lord limps forever after. But Morgoth ultimately crushes Fingolfin beneath his hammer Grond. The king's body is rescued by Thorndr, a giant eagle with a flair for the dramatic. Yes, this was peak cinematic energy, and Tolkien just slips it into the middle of a war. Back in Beleriand, the Elven kingdom's real. Dorthonion falls, overrun by werewolves. The House of Beer is nearly wiped out. Barahir, one of its last noble survivors, retreats into the shadows with a dwindling band of rebels. Morgoth offers bounties. One by one, Barahir's companions are hunted down, until only his son Beren survives. And Beren, well, he's about to meet Luthien. But let's not skip ahead. Amid the ruins, Nargothrond tightens its gates. Finrod Felagund, its king, remains one of the few Noldor not entirely ruined by pride. Wise, gentle, and a friend to men, he gives Beren aid later, at great personal cost. But for now, Nargothrond focuses on secrecy. It builds more tunnels, deeper vaults, and puts faith in stealth over strength. In the east, Gondolin remains hidden, sealed within its protective mountains. Turgon increases defenses, building more towers, crafting better armor, and trusting that isolation will save them. It's adorable, really. You can almost hear Doom tapping politely at the gates. And what of the men? Well, Morgoth isn't done with his PR campaign. He begins corrupting whole tribes, whispering into dreams, offering safety in exchange for betrayal. The Easterlings arrive, swearing allegiance but carrying knives behind their backs. They're allowed into the Elven fortresses, and historians still debate whether this was naive trust or desperation dressed up in diplomacy. Then comes the Nirnath-Arnediad, the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. The name alone should be a red flag. Fingon, son of the fallen Fingolfin, rallies the Noldor once more. Maedhros and his brothers promise aid. Dwarves from the Blue Mountains march beside them, armored in fire-resistant steel. Even the men of Dorlaman join the cause. Among them, Hurin and Huor, brothers of Iron Will. For a moment, hope flickers. The armies clash in the vast northern plain, and Morgoth's forces begin to falter. Fingon and his troops break through Angban's outer defenses. But then the Easterlings betray them. Morgoth had planned it all. Reinforcements arrive from the pits beneath Thangorodrim, and the battlefield turns into a butcher's floor. Fingon is slain. Huor dies defending the rear. Hurin is captured alive and, in a moment of cinematic spite, kills 70 trolls before being overwhelmed. He's bound in Angband, forced to watch the ruin of his kin through Morgoth's cursed vision. Think magical security camera, but infinitely more depressing. After Nirnath, everything unravels. The sons of Fëanor scatter. Nargothrond begins to crumble from within. Its new commander, Turin Turambar, rejects Finrod's legacy and builds a bridge across the River Nerrig. A tactical blunder so massive even the Ents would roll their eyes. And Doriath? It becomes increasingly isolated. Thingol, the resident grumpy king, grows more distrustful of outsiders. When Beren finally arrives and asks for Luthien's hand, Thingol laughs and says, "Bring me a Silmaril, then we'll talk. Oh, you sweet summer child." To everyone's surprise, Beren actually does it. Well, almost. With Luthien's help and Finrod's tragic sacrifice, they sneak into Angband in disguise. Yes, into Angband. She puts Morgoth to sleep with a lullaby, "Don't try this at home," and Beren cuts a Silmaril from the crown. But, because no Tolkien story is complete without limb loss, he loses a hand to a giant wolf named Karkaroth. Still, they make it back. And eventually, the Silmaril ends up in Thingol's hands, which, as we'll see later, is about as safe as giving nitroglycerin to a raccoon. Let's not forget the lesser-known corners of this mess. In the shadow of all these great battles, the Halidin, the third house of men, fight quietly in the forest of Brethil. Their chieftain, Haleth, is a woman of unshakable will who once stared down a group of angry dwarves without blinking. She leads her people with grit and quiet defiance, carving out a home in a world where giants and gods battle over pebbles. And then there's Eredhel, Turgon's sister, who defies Gondolin's isolation, travels into the wild, and ends up in a disturbing relationship with Oel, the Dark Elf. Their son, Maeglin, will later betray Gondolin. Because when you lock traumatized teenagers in underground kingdoms, what could possibly go wrong? As the first age stretches on, the land itself grows weary. Mountains crumble, forests smolder, the rivers run thick with memory. And beneath the waves, the sea begins to whisper. Still, the Valar remain silent, or almost. Whispers stir among the Mayor and Vanir across the sea. Some say Ulmo, the Lord of Waters, walks among mortals in disguise, urging elves and men toward hope. He sends dreams to Turgon, calling him to prepare. He sends signs to Círdan the shipwright, still quietly tending his harbors. Ulmo alone resists the silence of the West, still hoping to save what's left of Middle-earth. But hope is fading. The elves argue. The houses of men fracture. The sons of Fëanor scheme and splinter, each haunted by the oath. One brother, Amrod, may or may not have burned alive with stolen ships. Middle-earth historians still debate whether that's true or just dramatic embellishment. And Morgoth? He waits. The Silmarils glow in his crown. His fortress grows deeper. His armies thicker. The tides begin to rise. The breaking has not yet begun, but the cracks are forming. The wrath of the Valar. The Valar finally return to Middle-earth, waging the cataclysmic war of wrath, where dragons fly, balrogs fall, and the land itself begins to crack beneath divine fury. The world is tired now. The battles have twisted Beleriand into a map of sorrow. Mountains where kingdoms once stood now bristle with blackened stumps and ash. The elves, once radiant, eternal, are shadows of their former pride. The men, burdened by loss and cursed bloodlines, drift like leaves through storm. And deep beneath Angband, Morgoth laughs in silence. He thinks he has won, but the tides are turning. From the west, across the great sea of Belagare, a ripple begins. The cries of Middle-earth have finally reached Aman, the undying lands. The Valar, those mysterious, godlike beings who once shaped the world with song stir. For ages they have watched, bound by their own debates, their guilt, their laws. But now, at last, one voice rises above the rest. Erendil, you know the name. You've seen his star in the sky, though you may have mistaken it for Venus. But here, in the First Age, he is not yet myth. He is a desperate father, half elven, half man, and very, very tired of everyone's mistakes. With the Silmaril bound to his brow, he sails across the seas in his ship Vingilit, seeking the mercy of the Valar. And against all odds, he succeeds. Erendil's plea breaks through the silence. The Valar listen, and when they rise from their thrones in Valinor, the earth itself seems to pause. This is not diplomacy. This is war. The war of wrath begins. The Valar do not come alone. The host of the West includes the Vanir, those fair, high elves who never returned to Middle-earth. The Mayor, lesser spirits like Gandalf once was, march beside them. And leading them all is Eonwe, herald of Manwë, radiant and terrible, with a voice that shakes clouds into storms. They sail across the sea, and the world shudders at their arrival. In the skies above Beleriand, dragons rise to meet them, not the small, wingless beasts of old, but Encalagon the Black, the greatest of them all, bred in secret beneath the mountains. He is so large, so mind-warpingly massive, that his wings blot out the sun. His breath melts stone. His scream bends wind. And when Erendil, yes, star-browed Erendil, rams his ship into Encalagon mid-flight, the dragon falls like a mountain from the sky, shattering the peaks of Thangorodrim. It's over the top. It's ridiculous. And it's glorious. On the ground, balrogs surge from Angband. You thought there was only one? Think again. Dozens, maybe more, wielding whips of flame, roaring in fury. They're cut down one by one, some vanishing into the cracks of the earth, hiding, waiting. Only a few escape, One of them, perhaps, will one day face a certain wizard in the mines of Moria. Just maybe, Morgoth is captured. No dramatic final battle, just chains. The Valar bind him with Angainer, the chain of unmaking, and strip the Silmarils from his crown. He screams, but no one listens this time. He is banished beyond the world's walls, cast into the void where no time flows. Gone, for now. And yet, the victory is not sweet, because the land cannot bear it. Beleriand, that vast and storied realm, begins to break. The fury of the war, the sheer weight of divine wrath, shatters the foundations of Middle-earth. Mountains crumble into dust. Valleys fold inward. Rivers change direction. The sea Belligeir rushes in to claim what remains. One by one, the great landmarks vanish beneath the waves. Doriath, once guarded by Melian's spell, dissolves like a dream. Menegroth, the thousand caves, sinks, its stone halls filled with silence. Nargothrond collapses beneath the fury of the river Narog. Gondolin is already gone, betrayed by Maeglin and consumed by fire years earlier. But what little remains now vanishes under water and ash. The survivors flee. Elves and men scatter like startled birds. Many follow Ianwe's call, traveling east beyond the Blue Mountains, into lands that will one day be called Eriador, Rohan, Mordor. Some choose to sail west to Aman, elves mostly, though they must leave behind mortal friends and children. Others stay behind, bound by sorrow, memory, or unfinished business. And the Silmarils? Oh, they're still causing problems. Ianwe, noble as he is, refuses to let the sons of Fëanor claim them. Not after everything. But Maedhros and Maglar, the last two remaining brothers, are still chained to their oath. They steal the jewels because, of course they do, and the Silmarils, being filled with the light of Valinor, reject them. Maedhros throws himself into a fiery chasm, Silmaril in hand. Maglar, heartbroken, hurls his jewel into the sea and wanders the shores of Middle-earth singing laments. He never dies. He never stops. Somewhere, even now, he might still be singing. Fringe fact for you? The island of Tol Morwen, where Morwen, the mother of Turin, was buried, somehow survives the drowning. Just one little slab of rock standing defiantly in the middle of an ocean that swallowed everything else. A single gravestone all alone. Tolkien's way of reminding us that grief endures. And now the world is changed. The Blue Mountains, once eastern ridges of Beleriand, become its western edge. All the lands we know from the Lord of the Rings, the Shire, Rivendell, Gondor, exist east of the drowned continent. The world tilts slightly. History now becomes legend, and legend becomes myth. But for those who remember, the loss is sharp. Certain, the old shipwright, remembers. He stood on the shores and watched the waves swallow his kin. He will remain for thousands of years, building ships for those who wish to leave. One day, he will give his last ship to Frodo Baggins, though that's a story for another night. Galadriel, too, remembers, though she lingers in Lothlorien, bright and cold. Her heart is still haunted by Doriath's laughter and the crash of Nargothrond's river. She was there. She saw everything. Even Elrond, born in the twilight of Beleriand, carries the weight of it. Son of Arendelle and Elwing, raised by Maglar the singer who threw his joy into the sea. He knows what it means to lose a world. And Sauron? Yes, he survives. Morgoth's lieutenant, the one who escaped judgment. He vanishes into the east, wounded but not idle. He will rise again, slowly, quietly. And when he does, the echo of Beleriand's drowning will ripple into every corner of the Second and Third Ages. Middle-earth historians still debate whether Sauron truly believed in Morgoth's vision, or if he simply saw an opportunity for power. Either way, he becomes the shadow that follows all who remain. And beneath the ocean, the bones of towers, forests, and kings now rest. The songs of Beleriand become whispers in the waves. The stars above still shine, but the land that once stood proud beneath them is gone. Beleriand beneath the sea. As the oceans rush in and mountains collapse, elves flee eastward, Morgoth is unmade, and a drowned continent vanishes from all maps, except in song and legend. The sea is still now. Where once there were towers and cities, there are only endless waves, stretching silver blue beneath the sky. The land of Beleriand, its forests, rivers, and ruins, sleeps beneath the surface. Nothing stirs, nothing breathes, but in the depths, memory remains. Ignore once stood upon the slopes of Dorthonion, blazing like a flame in battle. Now the mountaintops are reefs, and the birds that circle above them do not know the names of those who fell there. The Sirion, the great river of Beleriand, once ran through the heart of the continent. Its waters shimmered with light and sorrow, feeding the lands of elves and men alike. Today, the ocean has claimed its course. Only in song do we hear its flow, remembered in elven laments that speak of a land lost beneath the sea. But not everyone is gone. Some of the survivors remain in Middle-earth, building the foundations of the world to come. Gil-galad, the last High King of the Noldor, leads his people eastward. He settles by the shores of Lindon, a new realm formed from the remnants of western Beleriand. The blue mountains rise behind him, half-shattered, half-standing. His people begin again, watchful, wise, and weary. It is Gil-galad who forms the last alliance of elves and men in the Second Age. It is Gil-galad who faces Sauron on the battlefield. And it is Gil-galad who falls in that final clash, consumed by fire. His journey begins here, among the wreckage of a world drowned and broken. And Elrond, son of Arendelle, grows up in this new age. He chooses the fate of the elves, though his blood is both mortal and divine. In time, he builds Rivendell, a hidden valley of peace amid a land still trembling from old wounds. When Frodo and the Fellowship arrive at his doorstep many ages later, they walk among echoes of a story long submerged. Even the hobbits, far removed from these ancient tragedies, feel the faintest tremors. Why do you think they disappear when things get serious? Somewhere, deep in their bones, they remember the world before the waves. And yet, with all this loss, the songs endure. The elves sing of Luthien, who chose mortality for love. They sing of Beren, who stole a Silmaril from the Iron Crown. Their tale ends not in death, but in rebirth. A second life granted by Mandos himself, a gift never given before or since. They lived together in the woods of Assyriand, far from war, until the waves came. Some say their forest still blooms beneath the water. Then there is Tuor, the mortal man who married Idril of Gondolin. He sailed west before the fall, bearing Ulmo's blessing. It's whispered he was welcomed into Valinor, and unlike any other man, allowed to live there forever. Middle-earth historians still debate whether Tuor truly became immortal, or whether the tale was a poetic exaggeration passed down through the ages. Either way, his story is not forgotten. But the tragedy of Turin Turambar, oh, that story haunts even the waves. Cursed by Morgoth, driven by fate, Turin slays friend and foe alike. He marries his sister, unknowingly, and when the truth is revealed, he takes his own life. His grave is the only marked location from the First Age that still stands in the later ages. Turin's tomb remains above the sea on the Isle of Tol Morwen, a single stone defying time and tide. And what of the dwarves? They survive, of course. Resilient as ever, they retreat into their mountain halls and mourn the loss of Belegost and Nogrod. Cities now claimed by the sea. Some migrate east, toward Moria. Others scatter. A few whisper of the great hordes lost beneath the waves, treasures that glitter still on the ocean floor, untouched by time. Even Ents, who once wandered Beleriand's forests, vanish westward. Treebeard remembers their songs. When he speaks of lands now under the sea, he means it literally. That's not just poetic rambling. He saw it. And there, far west of the newly shaped shores, lies Aman, the undying lands. Some elves sail to its harbors. Galadriel does not. Not yet. She remains, driven by pride and the faintest trace of guilt. She walks beneath trees that are not as tall as Doriath's, drinks from rivers that do not sing like the Sirion once did, and in her eyes is the weight of the drowned. And still, somewhere in the east, Sauron stirs. He escaped the wrath of the Valar by simply surrendering. Clever trick. One many find suspicious. He plays the long game always. He will rise again. He will forge the One Ring. And when he does, the stories of Beleriand, its wars, its glories, its ruin will resurface like half-remembered dreams. The world moves on, but the sea remembers. When Frodo gazes west from the shores of the Grey Havens, it's not just Valinor he looks toward. It's all of it: Beleriand, Doriath, Gondolin, Nargothrond. Lands he never knew, yet somehow aches for. It's the nostalgia of the soul, stirred by tides older than time. Even now, if you listen closely to the crashing waves, you might hear it too. A song in Quenya, drifting across the water. A harp note rising from beneath the surf. Or maybe just the wind, brushing through the curtains of your sleep. It's okay. You don't have to understand it. Just know that you've heard it. And now rest. The sea has claimed its silence. The voices are softer now. No drums, no fire, no screaming shadows. Just the hush of waves sliding over sunken stone, and the quiet sigh of time folding in on itself. Beleriand is no longer here, not on any map. But it's not truly gone either. In every elven song, in every soft-spoken tale beneath starlight, the memory lingers. These stories echo beneath the world, like deep ocean currents. Slow, steady, and endless. Let that weight settle over you now, not as burden, but as a blanket. The world changes. Lands rise and fall. But tonight, you float between them, unburdened. You don't need to hold on to the names or battles or bloodlines. Just let the shape of the story drift past you, like an oarless boat on still water. Hear the fading notes of a harp. See the soft glow of a Silmaril sinking beneath the sea. Feel the last breeze from a vanished forest as it brushes your cheek. Even the Valar sleep sometimes. Even stars dim for a little while. So breathe deep. Let the past dissolve, like moonlight on the waves. And if you dream of tall towers under starlight, of voices singing in a language you've never learned but somehow know, of white sails catching the wind. You are safe now. You are carried. And Beleriand is quiet.